Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. I am the Crypto Crow. It is Monday. I've got a storm brewing with yet another hurricane. I don't know where these guys keep popping up from and why they're constantly targeting Florida, but I don't know. It just sounds a little crazy to me. I'm going to be going over Cardano and Cardano's growth over the last several years to put some of these false narratives related to Cardano that are projected out by other camps in the name of competition. And we're going to show some of these numbers and exactly what they mean, and basically the reality of what's been happening with Cardano as a blockchain. And I also want to let everybody know that I'm going to be changing the format of this channel. I'm working on basically a 12-minute system for videos in the future. I need to start condensing these videos down. I'm going to start writing some of this stuff and really try to focus on getting the information out very clearly as we continue heading further into this bull run. I think it's important that I get to the meat and potatoes and move on to the next topic. And I am going to be covering other altcoins from now on. And I think to a certain extent, there are a lot of altcoins out there that are being pumped by different influencers for different reasons. And I feel like I need to start diving into these altcoins and letting people know what my thoughts are of them. If I am bullish or bearish on them, why, what's the reason behind it? But I want to let everybody know in this video too, that just because I'm bullish on a project or I think it could do really, really well, I need everyone to fully understand that it does not matter. Anything could happen in the crypto space, and I do not want to feel responsible for saying that I like something, everybody run out and buy it, and then, whether the team implodes or, it turns out to be some sort of scam or something like that. You guys know I'm always very transparent on this channel, and I never want to be cause for anyone to get hurt in any way. The one thing you can know is that I'm never going to buy a crypto at the bottom and pump it. Well, I tried to buy Cardano at the bottom, but I've been holding it already for years. So it's a little bit of a different scenario, but I'm not one of those guys that buys an altcoin and then does a video on it to pump it up, and then I sell it to all of you guys that are buying it. I've never done that since the beginning of this channel. I'll never do that. If I like something, I generally really like it, or I genuinely really like it, and I'm likely holding probably longer than most of you anyway. So I just want to make sure that that's known. And then let's go ahead and start diving into this because you're going to start seeing some of the new content roll out here sometime this week. Most likely, I'm preparing a lot of stuff because I really want these to be really good videos moving forward. And it's time to grow the channel, and it's time to start spreading, what I believe to be the proper narrative. And I think it'll help drive more people into understanding Cardano, because every video is going to have some Cardano stuff in it as well, obviously. So anyway, we're going to dive into some of these numbers here, and we're going to show you guys what everything means. So I took a date of March 30th of 2020. And the number of in-profit addresses back then was 48,710. This is all information from intotheblock.com, which is a really, really cool resource for getting some really solid information on different projects. You won't find Solana on there, though, for some reason. I don't know if it's on purpose or what, but you're not going to be able to find a lot of this really helpful data on the Solana blockchain. But Cardano is on there proudly. Break even, there were 19,170 wallets that were basically at break even. Its value is where it was bought. And there were 290,000 wallets at a loss. Substantially more wallets at a loss in March 30th of 2020. This is before the 2021 peak, obviously. And there were almost 6 times the number of wallets at a loss than there were in profit. So just to put that number into perspective, an average balance per wallet was around $2,700. This is obviously averaging the number of whale wallets to the number of people that just had $100, and it just averages it all out. And the average was around $2,700. So at the time, the price of Cardano was just 3 cents, and so that would equate to around 90,000 ADA per wallet. Total circulating supply at the time was 31 billion ADA, and the total number of wallets was 357,880. And really, the growth to peak, it was 6.2x growth, because at the time of the peak, there ended up being 2.23 million Cardano wallets created from March 30th to the peak of the market cycle. So we went from 357,000 wallets to 2.23 million in about 525 days. Okay, 528 days. Pretty substantial growth, especially for a blockchain that at the time, we didn't even have smart contracts really yet. Like we didn't have a lot of the functionality. So a lot of this was just pure speculation on the papers and everything that we knew was happening, being built. And that was basically where it was at. Now we're going to look at where we are right now. So there are currently, as of the 23rd here, we'll just bring this down. There we go. And so as of the 23rd of September, obviously it's the 7th now. So I just pulled this information a little while ago. I had an original version of this video and I decided to do it differently. There was 1.35 million in profit addresses, much higher than the previous market cycle, and even at a higher price point. At the money, there was about 157,000, almost 158,000 wallets that are just break even. Almost 3 million wallets at a loss at the time of this, September 23rd of 2024, with an average balance of around $3,025. And this is at a much higher price point of 38 cents, which equates to only around 8,000 ADA. So a much bigger difference, much bigger difference here. The total number of wallets is almost 4.5 million, which is, 12.5 times more than there were in March 30th of 2020. So the number of wallets have been growing exponentially, and all at a time when the overall value of Cardano continues to go up. Its average bottom continues to rise. Its average top from inception continues to rise. And people are obviously getting into the Cardano ecosystem at various times. So it's showing that, the profitability is there. The overall pattern projection is the same, but the number of wallets is growing constantly. Okay. So this is the only real major difference here you'll see is that there are about 4 billion more ADA in circulation than there were in the previous cycle. And that's obviously because of liquidity, the number of ADA being issued out to staking nodes and things like that, and then the staking delegators. So that's really pretty solid given what we see from other blockchains. I mean, it's very, very solid. So the total number of wallets is significantly higher because you're talking 357, almost 358,000 total wallets in the last cycle. There are 4.5 million wallets this cycle. So we don't have a time to peak yet because we don't know exactly when the peak is going to be. But there are 12.5 times more wallets today than there were in the previous market. So a lot of these narratives around, Cardano's dying, Cardano's dead, so forth and so on. We've seen a lot of different people do technical analysis and show the data of these of the blockchain as it pertains to, prices, price action things. There are other blockchains out there. Not many, but there are a few that are really moving up for various reasons. Whether it's I'm not even here to get into that. There's a lot of the stuff that's been exposed all over the internet. The one thing that I'm trying to project here is that, and I've said this many times before, there is room for everyone to grow. This does not have to be and just like Charles has been saying lately, we don't need the tribalism. And I think the jury's still out as to whether or not the tribalism is helping either ecosystem or any ecosystem versus another by drawing attention to them, because I do believe that this is one of those kinds of situations where Some of the FUD that's being projected onto Cardano, and because of the fear of bag holders of other projects, they say this, that, and another thing, but anybody that then goes and researches those numbers realizes that it was nonsense. And then they start looking deeper into Cardano because they're like, well, there's got to be something to this, because I see it. And I see some of the comments. So in some instances, the FUD is drawing people to the ecosystem. And when they start actually doing their own research, instead of trusting a lot of these paid for shills that are just basically pumping their own bags, and, they're making pretty solid incomes from project leads and things like that associated with their favorite ecosystem, people are realizing that it's a lot of nonsense. And then when they see the growth potential and what's happened to date and what's happening now, then they're able to start making some of their own decisions as to what is actually important, why decentralization means so much, and what it means overall for the grand community, on a global scale. And then they start realizing why we're here. And then they start comparing that to a lot of the metrics that they're seeing from the blockchains that put them in that situation to begin with. And then it starts to make sense. This isn't this is very much a centralization versus decentralization war. And a lot of it is the same situation we see in today across the board in other verticals and other things like politics and the like, where we see like centralized control versus freedom, right? And it's just like a lot of us in the Cardano ecosystem value our freedom and value our ability to function in the blockchain world without these significant restraints, without feeling like our efforts are being controlled by a handful of people that are ultimately operating the blockchain. I just saw another read on the one blockchain that is like over 51% of its validator nodes are basically in the hands of like 3 people, effectively, something to that effect. And they're basically on AWS. So if AWS were to pull the plug, half the blockchain's done, and it's already failing constantly anyway. So it's like that is what centralization looks like. Whereas decentralization, you've got 2,800 nodes out there securing the network. It's like it's almost fail-proof at this point. It's never been hacked. It doesn't go down. It's never gone down since inception. And that is the narrative that a lot of us in the Cardano ecosystem are trying to explain to people. Why decentralization is important over centralized blockchains. It doesn't necessarily matter that this one's faster or has lower fees, because if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And so those lower fees mean nothing. And effectively, the fee structure of some of these blockchains are so low that it inspires opportunistic people to scam and just bulk create like meme coins and all kinds of scam operations at very, very little to no expense to them. Whereas in other blockchains where the fees are a little higher, it gets cost prohibitive to run cycles and cycles and cycles of scams and rug pulls and things like that. So because you have to do it en masse to figure out which one's going to stick and make you the money. And so there are just so many different reasons why the narrative between centralization and decentralization are so important. And that's why so many of us love our Cardano ecosystem, and we're proud bulls of the ecosystem. And like Charles has said multiple times, this isn't just a blockchain for today. This is a blockchain for decades to come, if not more. And with the additions of things like Hydra and the scalability solutions and a lot of the things that are going into the Cardano blockchain, including Midnight and how that's going to function and basically build bridges to everything else out in in other ecosystems, Cardano is one of the only blockchains out there that I believe can facilitate the growth that's necessary in blockchain to really achieve mass adoption on a grand scale. And so that's where we're all at. And it doesn't matter that it takes a little bit longer than some of these other blockchains that just throw a lot of stuff to the wall to see what sticks, and then they spend the rest of their years trying to patch and fix all of the holes in real time. That obviously does not work. That approach does not work. So yeah, I commend Cardano on everything that it's done, but know that in future videos, I am going to start covering other altcoins, because I think it's time I start looking deep into them and really start rating them based off of what I think is going to be successful, what matters to the global ecosystem, what really stands a chance, and so forth. So until next time, thanks for joining me. I hope this video helps you out, and let me know what you guys think of the different blockchains that I might cover. And, I definitely am looking forward to your feedback when I start releasing some of these videos in the future. Grow your coins, and I'll see you soon.